Says live on YouTube.
Boom. Here we go. Now it's going to pop up and then there's going to be a delay. So I have to mute the fucking thing.
Sure. I'm going to this.
Okay.
Yep. I just got a notification.
Cool. And we're live, man. We're on.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, welcome to the chill session, man. We got Mikey Bananas with us today. You probably all know him from Grown Man Record Night. What do you got? 8,000 videos up there now?
That's a good question. It'd be interesting to see how many. We're on number of show is 355, I believe.
Wow.
When we first started doing it, we've been doing the show probably 8 years, 7 or 8 years. So I mentioned this, I think last week. I was telling Steve, I was like, dude, we've been doing the show twice as long as we were in high school. And think about that. High school seems like it took for freaking ever. We've been doing this show twice as long as that. That's nuts.
Wow.
But yeah, we and the first things we did, we were broken up. So there were like segments. It was a Dig of the Week segment and a Chip Chat segment. And then somewhere along the way, we'd take breaks. We're like, all right, let's stop down. We'll go take a shot and hang out and, do whatever. And then come back and do another segment. And then sooner or later, we kind of scrunched it all into one big show. Nice.
Hey, it's working out, man. You've been around for a while.
Yeah, man. It's been really fun. It's something to, I told people this was really I played live music for a long time. And when that kind of started ending, or I wasn't playing out as much, I'm like, what the hell do I do with my Friday, Saturday nights? I'm used to like having a gig or being so tired from gigs that I just want to sit and stare at a TV for all night long, whatever. But I'm like, I kind of want to I'm not a bar guy. I don't really go to bars and do that kind of stuff. But I love entertaining two ways, having people over at my crib and entertaining.
Nice.
So that kind of, it's like, hey, let's do this thing over here. And this keeps me from like going out and spending money and getting in trouble. More than likely, I can drink all I want and I have to worry about how I'm getting home. I'm already here.
Hey, no Uber, no taxi, no fees.
I say, hey man, you can drink my beers and I'll order a pizza or something. And you know what, you don't, just please don't make me go anywhere.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me on. This is cool. I'm glad. I'm digging the fact that people are getting more into the live streaming thing. And I think it's a fun way to like, organically discuss music and hang out, especially as we're going through these times.
Yeah.
It's a great way to stay in touch with people and just and get a natural vibe rather than what they're like in their YouTube videos. Cause it's not always a one-to-one, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I like it. It's an added on component now, and it seems to expand it for me and makes it interesting and makes me want to do it more again, as opposed to solo man camera, look at what I got.
Now you did videos and then went away and then came back. Is that right?
Yeah. I checked out my earliest VC video, and if I'm right, it was 2013 or something like that, maybe.
Cool.
I think it was around there. When people were talking about it recently, I went on and looked. And yeah, I started like in my apartment, in my bedroom, and I was turned on to some of the really old school people. I probably saw Derek. Derek shows some really cool stuff, and some guys that aren't around. Mr. Fart Boy was a guy I paid attention to, and of course Lazarus was around, and guys like that. So it kind of I like the idea because at that point for me, there was nobody to show them to, but maybe a couple of friends locally, and you'd go over and hang out and you'd show your wax and look what I got, but not really more than like a couple people. And when I found the old school VC, I said, this is really cool, man. People are showing their stuff and they're expanding on it. And I really like the idea. So
yeah,
I started making videos, and I don't remember how long ago it was, maybe a few years ago or something. I just kind of got tired of the whole one-sided. It just felt a little, I don't know, awkward and odd. I felt like I wasn't really showing anybody anything they didn't know, and I kind of like to give information and have people learn, if you can possibly learn something by watching my stuff. So I just decided to stop doing it for a while. And I did one video in between, I think maybe last year or something, 6 months or 8 months ago. But I got tired of it again, like between that video and making another one, I just kind of, so fast forward into this whole situation. I was doing some band interviews, interviewing some of my favorite bands and putting them on my channel. They're here for you to watch. And, we talked to people. I talked to Greeno about it in the past and how, it might be a cool idea to talk about doing something more than just showing. Greeno is in the same agreement as myself, as it just got really stagnant for us. And this just kind of, for me, I had pretty much everything I needed, and I was doing those audio interviews, and I wanted to do more too. And I saw a couple people that had some guests on, and they were talking about records and stuff, and I thought, that's really cool. What can I do? Can I make this idea unique for me? I think probably just in the idea that we're just going to kind of sit back and relax and show records, an extension of yourself to someone in another state or country, and we can pretend like we're on the same couch hanging out listening to records. And so that's kind of how I'm attacking this idea, and hoping that that'll give a new facet to what's coming really quick with a lot of these group videos and stuff, is making it a little more hospitable and palatable and less contrived and circusy, and just make it like one-on-one with a friend.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's funny because I think Zeke had told me, he's like, hey man, there's a guy coming back, Mr. Bizzarro, for old school VC guys, got to go sub to his channel if you're not already, da da da. And I was like, oh, that's cool, check him out, whatever. And then I'm like, oh wait, that's Aaron from the record groups on Facebook. Like I didn't even make the connection that this was the same dude. I was like, I know who this guy is. I didn't even know he made videos, because I guess our paths didn't cross back in the day. And it's weird. It's just, I didn't know. Like it was, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's really cool.
Yeah, it may have happened. I may have stopped and you may have shown up around the same time.
Yeah.
But you've been around for a long time, and you're kind of like that junk food on a Friday night. I like to click you guys on and just hang out. You don't have to. There's nothing expected of you. You just sit back. You have kind of the same thing going, where you hang out with your buddies, and you're showing stuff, and that's what I like most about what you do. Is it seems more just a few dudes hanging out in their basement kind of thing, and I know yours is in a room, but that same kind of feel where you go to your buddy's house and he's still with his mom, and you have to go to the basement to hang out, and spinning stuff, and smoking maybe a little something, and so I get that kind of cool feeling watching your stuff too. So
well, that's kind of what we're really trying to do. It was funny because there's been a few times over the years where, like, I used to have just mad trouble with my internet, and sometimes like the net is just like, nope, like I can't, no connection, no internet, no, the router's not working, whatever. And Steve and Jay come over, and we're all kind of hanging out, and you know what, we do the same shit. We just sit in the same room, we listen to the records, we just don't turn the camera on, but we end up doing the same thing. So it is that same vibe, that chilling and hanging out thing. We just at some point decided to turn the camera on to do it, and and that's, I mentioned this last week, doing the Man Cave of Doom thing is like, I know, compared to a normie, we'll call him a normie, somebody that like you work with, it's like, oh, I like rock and roll. You guys like AC/DC? It's like, okay, or I'm into heavy metal, like Godsmack and Metallica. It's like, okay. So to them, I may seem like a genius when it comes to music. In the world of VC and record nerds, I'm not that cat, and Steve knows a lot of stuff that I don't know. And I know some stuff that he doesn't know in the genres and areas that he's unfamiliar with. But, I learned really early on that you better fill the void with something other than just knowledge, because I don't have an endless supply of that, I'll say. So, I mean, I can hit some people some stuff once in a while, but like, you better fill that void with a little entertainment if you can, or at least try, give it the old college try.
It's good to have people with you that have similar yet dissimilar tastes in music. Mm-hmm. It makes it reciprocal. It makes it interesting. Not just everyone in the room loves the same thing, and that gets kind of old also.
What's really cool is like, Jay's 1 year younger than me. We went to high school together. We played high school football together. We played baseball together since we were kids and stuff. And so we're about the same age. Steve is the different generation. So it's always interesting to see different generational perspectives on things and how I've found things that I thought everything from the 80s sucks. And Steve was like, no, there's all these great bands from the 80s that just weren't on the radio and shit. And I was a kid, so I didn't know. But, and then I've shown him, stoner rock stuff that's out there like now and like, from the past 10 or 15 years. And, I know Steve's not going to be all in about a death metal record or something. That's not his Steve's, and I wouldn't, not really mine either, really. But, show him stuff like that. That's like, oh, I like this, even though this is not, it's not in my generation kind of music, but I was like, I really dig this. And I know there's things out there that I can show Steve that, hey, I think you really dig this, even though it's brand new stuff coming out. So
that's good. That's good. I think, there are always exceptions and considerations, but I think for the most part, if you're just open-minded, you can always take something positive away from a band or a type of music, even if you're not a real fan, or sometimes maybe even if you don't like it at all. Just try to keep an open mind, and there may be something in there, even if it leads you to a different kind of music. I think it's good to keep an open mind.
Absolutely. That's what I thought it was great. The boss man used to come around here and be on the show, and he was literally our boss. And then he's moved away and done some other stuff now, but he's a big hip hop guy, and I'm like a casual 90s, 2000s hip hop guy. And he would bring me and gift me lots of just super dope hip hop records from the 90s. And a lot of people that were around, we're not hip hop people either, but you hear it playing, you hear the beats, you kind of get the vibe, and you're like, you know what, I can kind of chill with this. I think Metal Theologian kind of took that vibe from all the records that boss man was bringing over, and he kind of went off on a little 90s hip hop trip for a little bit. So it's showing somebody just showing you that road, and it's like, hey, walk down this road a little bit and see what you come up with, And then at the end of the day, yeah, you're probably still a metal guy, but like you went down this road and checked it out, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. He always shocks me about what he shows. The shit he shows, you'd never imagine in a million years it'd be something he'd be into. So there's a perfect example of keeping an open mind and just let it happen. If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. He may give it more of a chance than most of us would. He goes off on a tangent. He's there for a month.
Yeah. And that's what's great. I love to see guys in the VC there because they're doing the same shit that I do. When I get like hyper focused on one band or one genre, like for a month. And it's like, sometimes me and Steve will do the same thing, and we're both into the same thing. And we get hyper focused on this one genre of music. And then like, a few months later, we're like, hey, what happened to all those Genesis records we were buying? It's like, well, we were all in, and now it's like, we've not played those in forever or whatever. It's just weird how that works. And I've seen on the VC people, other collectors do the exact same shit. You go through those phases, and those phases are really cool. And that's how you learn,
Sure. It is. And in the long run, if you're not into it or you get burned out, like I said, maybe it'll turn you on to something else.
Yeah.
That just one element of that band that you got tired of can send you to something completely new. So, yeah. So, I picked out some records.
Okay.
I asked if you would pick out some records, some recent spins, some stuff you like, maybe some different formats or DVDs or whatever you want. So, since you're the guest, I'll let you take it away, man.
Oh, okay. Well, this was something I picked up. Steve actually got it for me a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I guess it was. Tom is not my friend. But it's a soundtrack, and I don't know if you collect soundtracks. A lot of people are kind of shy away from them.
I do, yeah.
And it's not something I go after. I don't target specifically, but there was a movie in the 80s that me and my mom were just absolutely over the moon about. And it's kind of a weirdo movie that not a lot of people know about. And some people, you see it, we're like, oh, I think I did see this on HBO, like back in the 80s. It's a movie called Electric Dreams. Is that camera backwards?
No.
Okay.
No.
On my end, it's showing it flipped. That's
okay.
Weird.
No, you're good.
Okay. But Electric Dreams, it's 80. I don't even know the people in this. I think one of the chick is maybe somebody. It's Virginia Madsen. That's who it is. But this guy, buys a computer to like help organize his house. and it turns off and on the lights, just like you, Alexa. um, Shut up. But it's that kind of vibe, but it's like early 80s, and it turns his coffee pot on and does all this kind of shit. Well, the computer, and you can see him, he's kind of got a little meanie face down here. He falls in love with the girl, and it starts going after this dude's chick, right? And it's very corny in 80s, but it was just at that right time when I was like, a kid, and it was on like HBO or whatever. Me and my mom, I bought my mom an out of print VHS copy for Christmas, probably 10 years ago. And it was not cheap, but I was like, it was just something that I knew was special for her and I. It was just, it was pretty cool. And so Steve found this in a local record store, and he texted me like, dude, I don't think Steve sleeps ever. He texted me a Saturday morning. It was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. It's like, hey, would you be interested in this? And I like grabbed my phone, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? and I was like, I look at it, and I'm pulling the phone away, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Electric Dreams. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And secondly, what the hell are you doing awake right now? Like, I know good and goddamn well we were up at 5 a.m, still spinning records, drinking beer. And now you're out just like, not just up, but up and like doing grown-up shit. It's like, anyway,
did he know that you liked that show?
I think he must have heard me mention it, because I'm constantly referencing weirdo 80s movies and shit like that. So I must have said something about it at some point. It's a running joke that when I say I randomly name some quote or something, I was like, hey, you know what movie that's from? The default answer should be Summer Rental with John Candy, because I'm constantly referencing things, and I'll be like, come on, man, you don't know what that's from? It's always Summer Rental. That's a good place to answer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what year is that? Do you know?
It's like 84, 83. Let me pull up my old man glasses. I don't think I've ever pulled out my glasses on stream. My eyeballs that makes me look like 15 years older right there.
Just aged 20 years.
84.
84.
That's what I always need on the show, because I try to find out what year stuff is. And when I look down at the text, not to mention a few cervezas or whatever, and I'm like, dude, I just start guessing. 78.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The funny thing with saying HBO in 1984 is that they go way back to like what, the 60s, or HBO is like really old.
Yeah, I don't know when. It's probably at least the 70s, I would say, and probably somewhere like in New York probably had. We didn't have. I live out in the sticks, or essentially, cable was not available here till mid 80s. So I'm sure in some place like New York, you could have probably got HBO in at least 77, 78, maybe. I'm just kind of guessing, but it's weird. I've ran into other people close to my age that had HBO at the same time, and it's funny because that's a big movie that was out. BMX Bandits. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's an Australian BMX bike movie. That's Nicole Kidman's first movie, and it's an Australian movie, and a movie that was made by Disney called Midnight Madness, which is Michael J. Fox's first film. It's like a scavenger hunt where they go out and they're finding these clues and shit. But it's fun. I ran into this one guy specifically, and I was like, dude, we must have had HBO at the same exact time, because we knew the same obscure movies and were fans of the same ones. It's just really weird how that worked out like that.
Yeah. Same programming, same time, probably same living room, sitting laying on the floor, right?
Yep.
Watching TV.
Well, that
HBO
we didn't
have HBO. Big time, man. That's like, I think everybody knows that. Song, right? That intro. They're still kind of doing it now. It's kind of reminiscent of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man, we didn't have HBO. We couldn't afford it. We got Prism.
Oh yeah.
Remember Prism?
I do remember Prism.
And we had the box with a long cable. And then we brought it to the couch, and you push that snapping button, snap, snap, snap.
Oh yeah.
And they come out and they put that Prism sticker on there, and you go, now you got Prism now. What to do? Prism, pay TV.
Oh yeah.
It was unheard of.
Oh, that was I had some aunts and uncles that lived in the city, and we'd go to the city and see them, and they didn't even have a remote. It was just the box on the top of the set with the like click switches or whatever, and I'd just sit up there and I was amazed by the, there was an information channel which just had, text on it that, had that blew. I'd sit there and just watch that over and over again. I couldn't believe there was a channel where people were just typing shit on the screen.
Yeah. What was that, like stocks and trading and shit? Or
yeah, and sometimes just community announcements and be sure to visit. I don't know. It was I just regular TV didn't have that, so I don't know. I don't know why. I've always been a weirdo. I was just
or the 24/7 test pattern.
Oh
That's
yeah,
just on TV and nothing else.
dude. I love. Matter of fact, I work in the television business, and I sit at my desk. We have access to like over the air channels that I have a big TV in my office, and I have access to a channel which shows we run like 4 different television stations like out of this building, and so on the screen you'll have like here's 1 channel, 2 channel, 3 channels, 4 channels, and there's a clock in the middle, and it's like constantly running, and there's like audio meters doing this and all 4. I keep that shit up all day long. I love like monitors and neat knobs and dials, and I just I can look at shit like that all day long. It's cool to have in the background.
It's weird. It's weird to be calmed by staring at something like that. I remember talking about cable, and then I'll move on to showing some records. I remember when I first found out about the Weather Channel. It was probably, I want to say mid-late 80s or something, maybe 87 or something like that. That's my first recollection of it. Back when they used to show like fishing shows, and Bill Dance or something would be on there.
Bill Dance.
He'd jam a hook in his hand just to show you how to get it out. He'd hamstring himself and get him on the ear when a wild cast from
Aaron, I have to tell you, man, I did not expect to come on this show and start talking about Bill Dance. I'll be honest with you.
Hey, Bill Dance, I got a lot of years in fishing. I don't fish anymore, but shit, from 10 to 25, I was fishing nonstop. And I'd go anywhere to fish. I'd do anything to fish.
Well, here's something interesting. My dad was a professional bass fisherman. And so I grew up fishing, and I used to fish before I got into in between playing live music and getting to do record night. I was fishing tournaments and made a lot of money doing it. And I was really good at it. I could still do it, except I'm just incredibly lazy. And I don't want to get up, and I don't want to do that grind. But my family is wired into fishing like
no shit. Yeah. Some of the greatest memories I have around that time was watching the Bassmaster series, and they'd all go out on their boats, and the camera would show them in their tiny secret holes where they were going to get these bass. And so cool. Of course, I think there was a time involved and a weight limit. They had to get back in a certain amount of time. They had to have couldn't be too big, couldn't be too small. And it was like riveting. I was like, come on, man. I don't remember any of the guys, but I don't watch like football or anything, but I imagine for me, it was like football, because you'd be rooting for a certain fisherman. He'd have the sick ass bass boat with a 115 on the back doing 60 miles an hour through the bayou or wherever they were. It was really cool to watch. It's exciting. It was.
Absolutely, dude. Matter of fact, I've talked about before, over here we have what's called the Atari Alcove. So it's a little TV with a VCR and VHS tapes that I scrounge up from Goodwills and stuff. We play a lot. And recently, from my mom's, found me a box of my old VHS tapes from it's a lot of movies I'd taped off of TV and stuff. And I was like, oh, please God, have the commercials in there. I want to see that shit. Well, a good portion of what was in there was fishing tournaments. I'd recorded off of TNN in the 90s. There's all these Bassmasters and Bill Dance and Hank Parker from the 90s that I'd recorded off TV. So I've been playing them over here in the alcove, and people are like, why the hell do you have this shit? And I'm like, dude, you have no idea.
Dude, you've got gold. That's gold right there, man.
Absolutely.
It's like finding some old VCR tapes I got, and I've got like every WrestleMania for like 15 years, like every major pay-per-view event from say 89 to 2003, all on video. Like I must have paid thousands of dollars in pay-per-view events with WWF.
I've got there's a box set of VHS, the WrestleManias 1 through 13 right down here below me. And actually, hell, my shirt, TBS 605. That's the old WCW Jim Crockett stuff. Yeah.
Old school, man.
Yeah. Wow. And yes, this is the same shirt I was wearing Friday night, stains and all.
Hey,
the fact I haven't changed my shirt all weekend, that tells you where I'm at right now.
Hey, I'm not going to judge you, man. No, no sad here, bro. So let me start by saying this is my first Kickstarter investment. These are presidents of the USA.
Oh, wow.
You know these guys, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they did a Kickstarter thing just a few months ago. It was like pressed like by maybe some pirate company in Europe somewhere, only a few. It wasn't like an actual president's pressing. So it was never really officially released on vinyl. So they did a Kickstarter. They were looking for 25 grand. They got like $350,000 or something. I'm actually a little angry that they made so much money. Anyway, I pre-ordered this and I just got it yesterday. And this is like this is supposed to be some special one, the Kickstarter version. It's got this kind of green marbly. It's like lime with some darker colors in it and stuff. And you know, this is their Kickstarter variant. So I expected a lot more. Let me just say I expected a lot more than this super thin paper. I haven't listened to the vinyl yet. I'm actually a little worried to listen to it. I'm not ripping on it. I'm glad to have it because it is going to be one of the more rare variants as far as, I don't know, if you're into that kind of shit.
So was this not released on vinyl back in the day?
No, it was never released on vinyl. There's some European press that was unofficial. It was like limited. I don't know if it was 100 or 50 or what it was. It's like a blue version, but it's got different album art, and they really they just claimed that they had nothing to do with it. So they did the Kickstarter thing, and I figured for the amount of money, I mean, what did they make? Fucking 4 times or 5 times what they wanted to. 25 grand. They 8 times what they were doing at over $300,000, and I get that. I just expected more. Like I can give you examples of what like a single, you know, it's not a gatefold or anything, which is fine, but it's like card stock, you know, it's like postcard fucking material. I just expected more, you know, and you know, I know what they would say. Well, we already had it lined up with the pressing company, but you also didn't know that you were even going to make 25 grand on it, which is all that they were pledging to make. So how about you make 300 and some thousand, you put all that shit on hold and you tell them I want a more higher quality cardboard, you know, and I want a thicker wax, or how about like a plastic inner sleeve? How about like a protective outer sleeve? About any fucking thing that you get for 15 or 20 bucks when you buy them, you know?
Yeah.
Just feel kind of dicked in a way.
Yeah. That's kind of strange. I guess, are they still a band? Do they do anything, or they just?
No, they're not. They're not touring. They say they're not going to tour. You know, it is what it is. He's making like music for babies or something, or infants. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't like any of their other stuff, but I do like this. It's like a good historical point in my life when this album came out. It was a fun time when I was young, and I figured, I got a couple bucks. I'll do a Kickstarter. It could have been better. I'll let you know later on if the vinyl actually sounds good, because they weren't really super forthcoming with if it was mastered for vinyl or if it was just a CD digital rendering on wax.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is I wonder how they source the material, but you know,
I don't know, because
even still, you know, a CD doesn't have a nice big, you know, something to show, and I mean, I get it. So
you know, I'm being a little dicky, I guess, about it, but I should be glad to have it, I guess. But
well,
it wasn't cheap. It's like $50 all in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see when you get into that kind of level, and you're not to mention that you're holy shit, there's a storm outside, dude. I'll tell you what, I hope it doesn't knock my power out. It's like raging. But hear that thunder? Can you hear that?
Yeah, nice.
Oh, my Lord. But when you dump that kind of money into a project like this, not just the money, but like your time and effort, it's obviously something you care about. It's not like you dropped into Target and you're like, oh shit, there's a record I like, and you just plucked it off the shelf. You're, you know, helping them get their shit going, and I think that's another level of commitment. You know, it's you expect a little more for that, for Christ's sakes.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Maybe an add-on.
something, you know,
Yeah,
a little something
yeah.
for the effort, you know?
Yeah, how about a shirt? You know, they got all these bundles and all the shit that they do, and you can get a sign for like another $10. You know, I ain't into all that Kiss Gene Simmons shit.
Huh,
You know, I just want the vinyl, and I wanted the right to say that I supported them. That kind of made me feel good, but then
sure.
my ass kind of hurt too in the long run. So I don't know. Anyway, on to you, man. Enough of my
Okay.
rant about
Well,
that.
well, I wanted to make sure that I got some quintessential Grown Man Record Night stuff in here that, cause I've got a lot of kind of newer, I realize some of the stuff I've been listening to lately, and I've been using, to be fair, I've been sitting at this desk. I've been working from home for the past few weeks, and I've had I found a kind of a weird thing, and a lot of people maybe has this available too. I found an iPhone 3GS in my drawer. I mean, from like 2011, and I'm like, I wonder if this son of a bitch still power on. Powered it on. Obviously, there's no service, but it connects to my Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I wonder if it'll play. It's still got music on it, first of all. And I was like, I wonder if it'll play like Spotify. And I pulled it up. I'm like, son of a bitch, it works.
Mhm.
So I've kept it literally on, like, I play it 24/7 in here, hooked up to the Record Night mixer. And so if I'm just kind of walking around the house, whatever, there's constantly stuff playing pretty much at all times. And I'm like, I'll run this thing till it catches on fire, whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, I've been doing a lot of that while I've been working from home. Not as much records, because I don't want to have to get up and switch records while I'm working and stuff. But anyway, I don't know why I started talking about that. But I wanted to make sure that I got some quintessential, I know, stuff I've been listening to lately. So I've been using this time to discover new bands, bands that I've been meaning to like delve more into. Like I mentioned on the show, I think this past week, all of a sudden I'm just like, you know what? A lot of people talk about Guided by Voices. I've never really like sat down and listened to them. And so I sat down and like streamed them for a couple hours. I'm like, holy shit, this is a great band, man. I've been using my time to do that. But that being said, here tonight, there are some things I have been playing that are right out of the Grown Man Record Night wheelhouse, and something that we've not played on the show. It's just kind of off the show. This is a live King Curtis, live at the Fillmore West. With a monster gatefold. Look at this gatefold on this thing, man.
Yeah. Wow.
Vertical gatefold. And is he? Oh, you know what? It's awesome. I pulled this because I've had this record a really long time. We have a rule on Grown Man Record Night to know whether or not an album is good or not if you don't know what it is, especially in jazz records. If it's a black and white photo of an African-American gentleman smoking a cigarette, you know it's good. And this is absolutely no exception. I didn't realize that when I pulled this. I forgot this. But the standouts on this, and let's try to get a date on this guy. I can't remember exactly. I want to say like 69 or something like that. I can't remember. It's not coming out real easy. But this has the standout tracks, Memphis Soul Stew. I don't know if you ever heard that. It's a terrific track where they're bringing in the instruments one at a time, kind of like Archie Bell and the Durrells doing the Tighten Up. You know, when he's like, let me get a pound of them fatback drums. Or is that this one, or is that Archie Bell? I get mistaken. I've been here. But there's also a standout track is Whole Lot of Love. And yes, the same Whole Lot of Love. And I don't know who wrote that song. I know it's an old blues track.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would think it's a Zeppelin song, but this might be my favorite version. Now, I love the Zeppelin version. I'm not hating on Zeppelin at all, but this might be my favorite Whole Lot of Love version. It's soulful as hell, man.
And you mentioned that's 62?
68?
60.
I can look it up. That's King Curtis live at the Fillmore West. Alexa, when did King Curtis live at Fillmore West come out? 1971. Thank you, Alexa. Bitch.
Yeah.
But
what does that version sound like? Is it straight contemporary blues? Is it?
It's not as it's more soul than blues. Funky. It's like funky with some like soul singing. It's
A full band, drums,
full band. And it's it still has that groove. I knew the Zeppelin version before I knew the other versions, like most people. And it still has that same groove where you can hear the rock and roll at the root of it, but this record's not in the best shape, but I think I've got it for 50 cents. God, I don't know how long ago, like probably a decade ago. So I've got some other King Curtis that I do play. it's in a little better shape. But this one, especially if it's live, it's something that really plays well live. I think I'm not a big live guy with a lot of stuff. I think a lot of that stuff can gets and sound real shitty, and it really bothers me. I think a lot of live recordings are overly trebly, and I am just so adverse to treble. My brain, when I hear too much treble, I immediately just like I can't stand it.
Hissy.
Yeah, I can't stand that. But this one, that's a smoker, man. If you ever run into that, but those two tracks are worth it alone.
Okay. I'm actually going to write that down. I'm going to actively write these things down as
man.
They come to me. And these are things I listen to. Even with my conversation with Craig last week, I wrote some stuff down.
Cool.
Okay, so let me show you something, man. Since we're talking about soundtracks and stuff, I figured it's interesting because I didn't know you were going to talk about soundtracks, but we move into the OST territory. And I don't know. Let me ask you a question, Mike. Are you into zombies?
Yeah, I dig, especially some of the older zombie stuff.
Let me ask you this. Do you like Nazi zombies?
Of course. Who doesn't?
Okay, one more. Here's the caveat. What about underwater living Nazi zombies?
Whoa, man, you just that's like right off my fetish list.
So this is done for the first time on vinyl from Waxwork. You know, I'm sure you heard of Waxwork.
Yeah,
they do some of the sickest releases. And there's some of those guys.
Wow, that's really cool.
Coming out of the water, man. Coming for you.
I just saw a friend of mine show the Chopping Mall soundtrack from Waxwork.
That's another Waxwork. Yeah, I mean, those completists are crazy. I didn't really like the movie, so I didn't buy that. But this is about underwater Nazi zombies, and they wreak havoc on some unfortunate people that got stranded on an island. And Richard Carradine, is that John Carradine's father? Is that his name?
The brother or father?
The father, the oldest Carradine.
Okay.
Anyway, the oldest Carradine's in this for a little while. He gets killed. He gets killed by one of the zombies early on. But this is an OST, and it sounds really good, man. Here's
now, how would you describe the music?
Oh, very, very Moog. Like Moog out the ass.
Okay.
It's like 78 or 77, something like that. So it's creepy Moog music. Cool. Very it's ominous. It's spooky. It's scary. For me, it's scary. When this movie came out, it scared the fucking piss out of me, dude. Like I said, 77 or 78, so I was like 6 or 7 at the time. Scared the dog shit out of me, man.
Wow.
And so when I listen to it now as an adult, I still get kind of creepy. I'm like, ooh, that's scary.
That's awesome. It's funny because I've got something kind of to this point a little later to show, but I'm big and a lot of the stuff when I'm listening to like on Spotify and stuff, I've been really into a genre called synthwave like lately. And it's a lot of it kind of harkens back to that late 70s, early 80s to mid 80s soundtrack music of almost some of it scarier, kind of avant-garde synth stuff to like corny, what I would call montage music from like an 80s montage, like a training montage in an 80s action movie. It's what I'm finding myself listening to, especially because it's instrumental and kind of thin in the skin in terms of, I can work without having a bunch of like lyrics and stuff thrown at me. I can just have it in the background. And that's kind of really been my go-to because as much as that's like good work beats for me. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. If you get bored, check out the movie, man. It's so bad. It's fucking good. And you'll see people in there that
Okay.
They're a couple old school actors at the end of their time. I don't think they did anything after that.
That is a complete new one on me, so I have to check that out.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll entice you when I tell you Peter Cushing was in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's one of the Nazi guys.
Nice.
Not the zombies. He's one of the ones that helped create the zombies.
Okay.
So it's great. Check it out.
Huh.
It's so bad. It's fucking good.
That's what I've been watching. I just recently found, I was talking about on the show Friday, the amount of music documentaries I've found on the Tubi. I don't know if you mess with Tubi at all. It's a free streaming service. There are so many documentaries on there, but also in the cult section. I just put one in my list about this computer controlled monster truck from like 88. But the Miami Connection is in there. If you ever seen Miami Connection, oh my God, it's like it follows a synth pop band in the 80s, and it's got ninjas. It is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Just like what you said, it's the best and the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely. But there's tons of them on Tubi. So I've been really into watching the bad, good movies here lately for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I'm in anything with ninjas. I'm in.
Oh yeah, dude.
We
I
used to
have
a, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. I've got a book. You should be able to see it in the shot over here. But somebody gave me a ninja magazine from the 80s. And I have a book that like has like training exercises for ninjas. And there's like, 9-10 photos on a page, of like, you block with this, put your hand here. And it's like, but they're like, blonde dudes with big bushy 80s mustaches out in the woods in the 80s training ninja shit. They look like Chuck Norris sort of. It's the most bizarre shit you've ever seen. But I used to have it in the background of the record shot up there.
And nine moves later, you're a ninja.
That's it, man. You get through the book. It was a pretty thin
mustache.
book.
The mustache will cost you $9.95 shipping and handling.
I wouldn't know how the mustache would work inside of the mask though. So I figured that'd tickle a little bit. I don't know.
You have to cut a little relief to let it.
Yeah, I would think so.
In. And then you'd probably giving yourself up.
Give some breathing room for your nose neighbor. I looked at the chat. Aaron Griffin said he was watching Chop and Mall on Tubi last night. That's funny.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We had a Saturday thing. It was on our local channel. It was called Kung Fu Theater.
Oh yeah, we had that.
Did you?
Yeah, man.
And they'd show all the dudes jumping up into the tree. Of course, he's jumping down out of the tree, but it just reversed.
Yeah, exactly.
And the flapping.
I have a VHS over here. It's like 6 hours of Kung Fu Theater recorded off of TV from back then.
Oh, dude, I got to see that bumper.
And I tell you what was even weirder is, being my fiance, we've been together a long time. We've been together a really long time. So when we first got together, I'd always told me and my mom watched this Kung Fu flick back in the day. And you probably know it when I say it, but at the time, nobody knew what I was talking about. It's like, yeah, there's this thing that flies through the air and lands on people's heads and cuts their heads off. And then the heads are like rolling around the ground and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, no, dude, it's like this, it's a Kung Fu movie, but there's this thing that flies through the air and it chops people's heads off. And everybody always looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Well, I go over to her house for the very first time. I'd been looking for this movie for over a decade. And she was like, here, take the remote, flip around, see if there's something on. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Flip. I was like, oh, cool. Look at that. Oh, sweet. And I'm like, it's called the Flying Guillotine. And I was like, that's it. That's it. That's the movie. And she was like, what, do you want to order something? Like, shh, shut up. And like, I was so blown away that you have no idea how long. Master of the Flying Guillotine is what it's called. Master of the Flying.
Okay. What was flying through the air?
It's this like contraption that it's like about the size of a helmet, I guess. And it would land on people's heads and it would, and the cheesiest Kung Fu effects where, their heads fall off and you see the pink stuff on the bottom where their head was cut off. It was,
I think I remember a little bit of that, a giant contraption flying through the air.
Yeah.
And somebody going, oh.
Yeah. That's it's so weird. And I was like, maybe this is the chick. Turns out now we're engaged. So maybe it was. I don't know. It was kismet, whatever.
Meant to be.
That's a good indication.
Yeah. So what do you got? You want to show something, or is it
my
turn?
Well, I'll pull out of this. This is kind of an underrated, I would say, a sleeper in terms of a jazz record, and kind of a later jazz record. And it's just got a kick-ass cover, and this is what totally sold me on it was the cover. I didn't even sample it. I was like, I'm buying this. It was $3. Cal Collins Cracked Ribs with the Steve Schmidt Trio. It's called Cracked Rib, but look at this dude on the cover here, man. Eating him a big ass plate of ribs and fries. Oh yeah.
That dude's too white to be eating them ribs. You sure that for him?
That's right. It's like 85 on Mopro records. and it's guitar jazz. He's a guitar guy, and he's a smoking guitar player.
Okay.
Cal Collins is a really big smoking guitar player, and I was really kind of blown away by this. Normally, you say, "Hey, here's a jazz record from '85," and I'm like, you know what? Let me just save you some time here, partner. But
now, is that just guitar, or is there a band?
no, it's a full band, and there's some songs that are, it's very much Kenny Burrell kind of style playing, but and sometimes he's going off, and like just really putting it to it. Other times it's a little more subdued, and so it's hit and miss. But overall, for $3 and it's not a record everybody has,
Right.
I can play Kinda Blue 1,000 times, but everybody's got that, and it's not a conversation piece, at least.
Okay.
So there's at least something to be said for that.
Any standout pieces on that album you'd recommend?
I think the first track really does it for me, which is Cracked Rib Blues, ironically enough. But that's the one that really jumps out at me. There's a couple of kind of slower jams on here too. So you have to, like, for record night, we're always cognizant of where the slow jams are, especially with funk records. Funk records will get you. We always try to avoid them. Not that slow jams are bad, but like, funk record, you'd be like, dude, play the first 2 tracks. We got to get out of it before we get to the third one, because it'll come in and it's like, ooh, baby. And you're like, the party goes, so that's always and sometimes we'll get in the other room or running our mouth and bullshitting around and like, oh shit, it's playing that fucking slow jam. Run and get it. But yeah.
Yeah, guitar guys. I was checking out some Joe Pass at Montreux recently. I really like that guy, man.
Oh yeah.
He really gets you, just kind of everything melts away when you really get into what he's doing. And you don't have to really be watching. Sometimes it's better to not watch. Sometimes it's better to just listen.
Yeah.
It ends up being more immersive when you do listen. But he has such a gentle, it's so technical, but so gentle. It's very, very wispy technique. I don't play guitar per se. I play enough to get my drum ideas across, for when I'm writing and stuff. But I know enough about guitar to know what this guy's doing, and it's such a joy. And live, you think there'd be something lost, but that Montreux album, I should have pulled it, but I didn't. That's a really good one if you're into just relaxing.
Yeah,
it's that kind of music you don't have to be dedicated to just listening to the music. You can do other things, and it'll pick you up. Your ear will go, kind of prick up.
That's pretty cool. And I'm kind of, I have a limited amount of jazz guitarists that I really know a lot about. Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery, that's kind of the staples. And those guys are great. But a lot of times, a lot of that stuff is really slower and it's kind of hit and miss. I mean, for the show, at least, we're looking for smoking tracks that keep the BPM up a little bit. But but I love, as a guitar player, I love any show off guitar shit, So, I need to check that out. I'm always in the mood for more guitar jazz stuff. That's not corny. I was about to say 80s corny, and I just showed an 80s guitar jazz.
Yeah.
But not that ECM kind of vibe of
right. Yeah, that's not a bad one. All right, so I'll turn you on to something relatively new. These guys are out of New York. They're out of Buffalo, or Rochester rather. Band's called King Buffalo. I talked about these guys before, and this is Longing to Be the Mountain. These guys they call themselves heavy psych. If you're my age or around my age, you hear nothing but reminiscent things, but they really find a way to blend it together really well and make it unique for them. So you'll even hear some, not on this album, but they're big fans of John Carpenter. And on their new album, they do like a John Carpenter type of song. So much so that when I interviewed them, and my interviews with them's on this channel, if you want to check it out, I asked them if they're big Carpenter fans. And I think they said, what gives you that idea? As for someone like me that is into Carpenter all the way back to The Thing, and I knew exactly what I was hearing. I was like, wow. So they use Moog and all kinds of other stuff. And so rock, blues elements, obviously. They love Floyd, obviously loved Carpenter and those experimental type of sounds. He plays loops and things like that. He's got all the singer, guitar player's got all kinds of pedals he uses for repeats and stuff like that. But these guys are really good, man. You know, they're young. This is, I wish I could show you, but they call this the I don't remember what variant they call this. It looks black right now, but when you shine a bunch of light through it, it's like dark green, like amber with swirls in it. And I forget the variant. They just gave it some kind of name, but it's like a new type of vinyl pressing they're doing, to where if you don't look under it right under a bright light, it just looks black.
And there's one U2 album that's like that, where it's like purple, right? Like one of the.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it is, but
I know Thin Lizzy has one, the Black Rose, which I have the repress of, and that's purple. That's like that's like 180. It's pretty heavy slab.
King Buffalo is such a it's one of my favorite newer bands I've heard in the last few years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're absolutely phenomenal. A lot of the I'm in a lot of kind of like stoner rock, doom, stoner doom kind of groups and stuff, and King Buffalo is always kind of top of the list with these guys, and that they're a little more into the psych end of that, a little proggier at times.
But a little bit. They kind of explore the idea of mantra-esque. They set up a kind of a mantra type feeling, almost like the dawning of, if you're outside and the dawning of a new day and the sun just starts to come up, and they're really good at setting up like those kind of audio soundscapes.
Yeah, they're really dynamic for a
three-piece,
for a stoner rock group. I mean, I don't, they're extremely dynamic for that, and they have just enough heavy fuzz elements to it to maybe put them into that like a stoner rock category. That's like, it's a great guitar sound. And actually I just recently watched, there's a rig rundown with the guy from King Buffalo, and he plays smaller amp, like a twin reverb or something.
He plays a Fender Twin.
And so he's a big, it's a little unique for that type of player. And it's
it is. They've got they're young, compared to a 48-year-old, they're young, and I think the oldest is in their mid 30s, maybe 36 or something like that. But to have that kind of grasp on classic music, and then the ability to make it original, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I almost didn't think that existed anymore in younger people.
Yeah.
So I respect them for that.
How did you come to be able to interview them like that? Did you just reach out?
Well, essentially I did. Yeah. And I just caught him at the right time. There's a couple other interviews with a band called Poobah that I did with Jim Gustafson. It's more or less reaching out and sending a sound idea, giving him an idea of what it is I'd like to talk about. And instead of just want to be interviewed, I'm kind of persuasive, I always have been. So they liked my idea and the idea that I knew a lot about them. So I asked them all kinds of varying questions, all the way down to what their rigs were. And so there's a whole rig rundown, but for the whole band, including the drummer. And being a drummer myself, that it was cool talking to the drummer and asking him exactly what he's using and why he's using it. And so, they're pretty good interviews. But yeah, more or less just getting the balls up to sound intelligent enough to get something across.
Yeah.
That's
pretty cool, man. They're a killer band. They've written, and that new record is
Dead Star.
It reminds me of, I was going to pull it actually. There's a new, it's right here actually. There's a new Elder record out yesterday.
And they're big fans of Elder, man.
Are they really?
Yeah, they toured with Elder.
This is the last Elder record came out. It was my album of the year for 2018, I think it was. Reflections of a Floating World. One of my favorite records I've heard in like a decade.
Yeah.
But I know Aaron Griffin was watching. He's a big Elder. I've turned him on to Elder, and he's bought a shit ton of their records. And I actually I streamed the new album last night while we're just kind of over hanging out. There was a track that was leaked a month or two ago, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I was thinking, because when I listened to it last night, I'm like, holy shit balls, this thing is awesome. And they do the same thing like King Buffalo. There are almost every track has some sort of synth texture on there, just enough to kind of tickle the tip, just enough to a little bit of Carpenter-esque, just enough to where I'm like, oh, okay, they've brought in some synth this go around, and it's tasteful. It's not of like, there's nothing worse than when a band's like, oh, we're a death metal band, and it comes out the next record and there's all these, jazz sections on there. And I'm like, okay, guys, just take it easy. But it's not that. It's kind of a taste. Elders, just like King Buffalo, is the same way. There's always a tasteful evolution to the next step.
Right.
They're just musicians getting older and getting smarter and they're getting better.
Yeah.
And that's, I love to see a band that does that. And it's not so contrived as to like, oh, I'm tired of being just a rock band, I want to do this other thing too. And that's always so transparent and obvious when people do that,
Yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. It does make it contrived. And King Buffalo, they're into so much kind of shit that they can just pretty much go anywhere they want for, if they're smart enough, infinity. They could still put killer shit out like they just did with Dead Star, which just came out like a month or two ago.
Now, did they self-release that?
I think they do. I think they do with all of them.
I remember reading that. It kind of surprised me, because there's a guy that watches our show and he posted that on Instagram, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't realize he was a King Buffalo fan. That was right before you'd posted the interviews, and I was like, oh man, this seems like everybody I know is like King Buffalo, and I didn't really realize it.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. For once in my life, an Amazon, a computer algorithm actually sent me to something I really liked.
Huh.
I was listening to, I have Amazon, like the pay service for their audio, like their $8 one. And I was listening to some kind of like, same, maybe Stoner Rock or Caius or something. I don't remember exactly, but there's a tab that says, people listen to, or other, say something like that, more like this kind of thing, or you'll like this, and I clicked on it and King Buffalo came up. And at first I was like, that's kind of a corny name. But then historically I looked it up.
Not a fan of the name.
There's something to it, there's actually something to it historically. So,
but I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the first song I heard was a song called Kerosene. I actually think it's from this album, and it has such a hook, which is, what we were talking about, how they actually have the ability to put out music with a hook. With all the ethereal shit and, the mantra-esque type of stuff that they do, it's interesting that they can lay down something with some chunky riffs and just kind of push you along. You don't, it's not a follow along thing. Now we're telling you where to go.
Right.
As opposed to most of the time is you kind of build your own world around what we're giving you.
Yeah. I found a lot of these bands. I've been a fan of this YouTube page or channel, and then also a Facebook group, Stone Metal of Doom. Now, I found a lot of bands out. Now, I will say, as of a couple months ago, the cat that runs it, there's been some stuff come out. He's maybe been a little sketchy with bands. Seems to be kind of douchey, and made some real douchey comments to some of the females about, so just typical dude bro shit, sending shirt off pictures and like, hey, you want to get together? Like some real cringy shit, man. So I've since distanced my relationship with, I don't know if they had a relationship, but I'm not here to promote this channel is what I'm saying. But I've, over the years, I'd be remiss if I didn't say I found out a shit ton of these bands through this YouTube channel and the Facebook group. And a lot of the people in the Facebook, it's not just the guy that runs it, but hey, if you like Elder, check out King Buffalo. If you like King Buffalo, check out 1,000 Mods. If you like that, and just bop and everything. Let me open another tab. Shit, I'll open another tab. Let me stream these guys. Next thing I know, I'm looking for records, and that's how a lot of this.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. So what do you got, man? You got something else to show?
Yeah. This was some VCLT from I was kind of doing my funk and jazz kind of early here before I get into some of the rocky stuff, but we're lucky to have a guest on the show. Nate Bouchard came up a few weeks ago before the lockdown, and brought me a couple. Actually, I can do two at one time here to kind of move into the rock side of things. But he brought 2 or 3 fantastic presents. I just casually mentioned this on the show, and he was like, I think you've been looking for this record. I'm like, dude, you pay more attention than I do. But it's Coltrane and Don Cherry, Avant-Garde, with
Yeah.
this decaying rat on the cover. This is a repress. I can't remember. It's originally 66 on Atlantic, and this is like a red. I had to look this. I can't remember when the repress came out, but it's like a nice.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Candy
pretty
wrap.
sweet, and it's a smoking record. They're actually doing several Ornette Coleman compositions on this record, who I'm a huge fan. Coltrane is actually from the town where we live. Well, not from. He lived here a great deal of his life in High Point, North Carolina. There's like a statue and all kinds of shit here. So I love. Ever since I was a little kid, I've loved John Coltrane. But he heard me casually mention this and brought it up, and it's I've just even off the show. And that's what I'm showing this evening is a lot of the stuff that I continue to listen to even once the show's over and it's Saturday night or if it's Sunday morning and I'm like, man, I really want to hear something that's still kind of sticking in my head.
Right.
And something else I've listened to multiple times as a present from Nate was Dinosaur Jr.'s The Farm album. I think it came out in 2014. This thing is such a fantastic record to be a little later in their discography. It's something that just every damn song is killer. And this record, this is a double LP. This is like $14 at my local spot. And he got me another Dinosaur Jr. too. The one before this one, or maybe it's after, I can't remember. But it's got a download too. To be able to offer a double LP for like around $15 with a digital download. I don't know how Dinosaur Jr. is doing it, and some of you other assholes can't figure it out, but that's the way to do it right there.
Hey, presidents of the U.S., take that as your fucking foundation next
there you
time.
Go.
Put out a record charge for $50.
Or Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree. As much as I love that shit, Steve grabs all of them when they come out, but every one of them is like fucking $40.
Now, for people that don't know, why don't you throw a couple tracks off that album that people would like to hear? Because you're right, that they're all awesome.
They're all awesome. I'll just say Pieces, which is the first track, is really good. Your Weather, that's another good one. There's No Here. I mean, they're all good. And I was late to the party with Dinosaur Jr. Admittedly, I knew him as a radio band from the 90s, which that's so misinformed. I mean, admittedly, once I kind of got into Jay Mascis and kind of what he was about, and that's another one of those groups. I just, for whatever reason, I just kind of skimmed the surface with them. I was a huge Nirvana guy, and the Seattle scene, and they're right there. I mean, they wanted Jay Mascis to be the other guitar player in Nirvana. I mean, they were that close. And for some reason, I just never, that song that was on, I can't remember the name of the song, that was in the 90s that was on for Dinosaur Jr. I don't think I was the biggest fan of that track. And I knew it as that. I lumped them in with somebody like, I don't know, Seven Mary Three or just a 90s radio band. And that is so not, he's such a killer guitar player, and the tones he gets out. And I've learned a lot from Jay Mascis about something I've been working on in the living room this weekend is stacking effects, stacking fuzz pedals. I'm in the search of the best fuzz tone I can get for the little project Steve and Jay and I are working on. I'm to the fuzz portion of the program. So I'm trying to find the ultimate fuzz sound. And Jay Mascis is big on like stacking effects to get the optimum fuzz tone. And that's what I've been working on. So God bless him for that.
Can you imagine what Nirvana might have been?
Man, to me, you mean like if Jay Mascis was in the band?
Yeah.
I would almost rather it have went down this way, because then I'll think about all the Dinosaur Jr. records that probably wouldn't have got released and all the stuff that would his songwriting have been hampered, and he wouldn't have been able to put out all this stuff. So
it would have. You're right. It would have been completely different. Maybe Nirvana wouldn't have been as good, and there wouldn't have been any Dinosaur. So.
I'm glad I have, especially now, at my age, to be like, I've got all these Dinosaur Jr. records to now go back and be like, don't have this one, barely listen to this one. That's one I streamed incessantly for the longest time, and should have already picked up some records because I was already to the point that I knew I loved them. And Nate just kind of pulled the trigger for me. So appreciate Nate for doing that. And it's always nice if people do stuff like that for you.
Yeah. Seems like you got a lot of people calling you, asking you if you want vinyl. I'm still waiting. Here's my number. Call me.
That's it. That's it. I'm gonna grab a brewski real quick.
Okay. I'm going to pull something else out here. Yeah, I'll show you something until he gets back. Here, guys. This is Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. This is like 1982. It's called What's Next. You know the sound. You know the sound, don't you, Mike?
What is that?
This is What's Next by Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush.
You know, I've never heard this.
This is 1982. The whole band, he still has the original band. Aound and all is playing with him. This has got stuff you would know. Well, maybe you would know. Where are they?
I think I just heard somebody else mentioning Frank Marino, and that's something I totally don't know anything about.
Yeah, You Got Living. Man, that's a good fucking song. Anyway, this is Mike, if you're in the shred, obviously he lives in blues. That's where he comes from originally. Canadian dude that likes the blues, but he interprets it so well. And he's such a good player, excuse me. This is one of the shreddiest. Give it a chance, because it may be a little too hissy for you. It's kind of trebly, unless you've got some speakers that you can turn the treble down on the speaker itself. It is a little bit hissy, but that's just that it's got that early 80s kind of Coke tinge to it. You know, everything was kind of tinny around that time.
That's a good way of putting that, yeah.
Yeah. But this is really good as far as shredding goes, because they're extended solos and they're like shred-oriented solos. Of course, he does his blues thing, his contemporary blues thing, and his blues rock thing, and of course they can do progressive all day long. But his thing is just endless shredding. Some of the greatest guitar work. I had the pleasure of seeing that guy twice. One shows back to back. One in Philadelphia and then one in Atlantic City the next night. And he's so good live. He's actually better live, in my opinion, than a lot of his LPs. He's got a live LP too. But if you're into guitar work, he plays an SG. He plays really well. He looks effortless. He's into it. It gives a lot of motion. And if you dig extended guitar solos, that album's got a lot of energy. A lot of fucking energy.
Check that out.
I'm not insinuating anything. I'm not claiming they did coke, but if we listen to what he did before that and listen to those shredding solos and then listen to what he did after that, and you kind of get the idea.
Connect the dots. Yeah.
Maybe just too much coffee. Maybe just too much.
Sure.
But I highly recommend. That may be an album that I would recommend most people to hear if they're into heavy rock and blues, because he does blues, very good blues on there, but it's all hard blues.
I have to check that out. And you know, it's funny because one of the great things about because what we do here for record night, or here in the studio, we got two turntables and a big DJ mixer in the middle. And then I run that from that mixer, we run it into the PC, and that's how we get the sound to everybody. But the great thing about having a DJ mixer connected to all this is a lot of times I'll put on a record. Punk's really bad about this too. And when I put this on, I'm like, oh man, who the fuck mastered this album? This is dog shit. And I go right up there, boop, it's just turn the treble. I start just remastering the album right with on my fingertips. And I can make records that like otherwise would be unlistenable. I can fix them right on the fly and be like, there we go. That's a lot better.
I seem to do that every time I put an album on. I'm always going to the EQ or the preamp EQ or right to the speaker and turning the mid or the high end down.
Yeah.
And one quick note on the Mahogany Rush, the Frank Marino in particular, is he just put out a DVD. This just came out a couple months ago. It's got like 12 or so. It's got a ton of hours of live. I think he had a professional crew come out and professionally film him. Excuse me. And he just put it out on DVD. I think it was even maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when he originally did the recording. Something happened with the audio, and the audio was all fucked up and like not even able to be used. And somehow it's taken him like all these years. I really think it's like 3 or 4 years it took him to somehow repair this audio track. I think he said beat for beat and riff for riff. He had to do all this computer work to fix it. But I haven't had a chance to get it because it's over $100. But he's got a DVD with just the hugest set list ever. I think they've recorded all day long or 2 days or something like that. And it's all high quality, like 4K, and the audio is just incredible. I really want to pick that up. So that's like out right now for anybody that's wondering, is he actually current? He doesn't have his original band. He's got the same band that he's had, I think, since Real Live, which came out in like 2001 or around there. So they were young then, but I think he's got the same players now, really good players, but not an original band. It's just Frank. But it's really good, man. There's a video on here on YouTube if you want to check it out. I think it shows like one of those songs from that set. And once you hear the one song, you're like, it's such good quality, and he does such a good job. That's probably on my list next. I gotta, and you're helping to support this guy. I mean, this although musicians know this guy, he's like the consummate guitar player. Zach Wilde knows him. You know, all big players know him and credit him as a huge influence. So he's not unknown by any means, but he got out. He got fucked hard by his label, CBS, I think, at the time, and they even still own some shit of his that he can't even fucking release.
Wow.
So he got burnt and he left the scene. And so at this point, he's just doing his thing to make money. So if you like Frank Marino, I don't make any fucking money off of this. But if you're into supporting people that deserve to be supported as a musician, consider buying that DVD from Frank if you can, or something from him. I think up until that, I think even that album, What's Next, is on CBS. So I think it was even after that. Every album from there back, I'm pretty sure someone else owns, CBS or another label. He signed some bad deals. So, but he's just a regular dude that rents a house, and he's just a fucking musician who wants to play. So they're the guys I want to support the most. So
yeah,
if
absolutely.
you can, it's a worthy cause to support a musician. So he can keep doing music. He wouldn't buy a fast car or a big house. He'd use the money to make more music. And it's those kind of guys that you want to support long term, right?
Yeah, really. That's exactly right.
So yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Kick ass. Yeah, this was something, I think we played it on the show last week, actually, but this is, anytime I get a chance to showcase this album, I love to do it. It's Volto. This is this was a gift from the girlfriend at the time. In Satare. But this is, if for those of you that don't know, this came out in 2013. It's a prog group that features Danny Carey of oh, look at there. Holy shit, man. Prog group with Danny Carey playing drums. So I heard it the first time. I was like, holy shit. Fiance got it for me for Christmas. And she was like, you have no idea how hard this was to get this record. Like, and now I think it's even tougher. But and it went up in price and stuff like that. So this is something I've just been, I don't know if they repressed it or what, but it's something that I'm proud to have. And she was really proud to be able to pull the trigger and figure out how to get it for me, because I was no way in hell would I have thought she would have been able to figure that out.
Can you show side 4?
Oh yeah, the etch
or the D-Boss or whatever it is.
Yeah. Let's see if this.
There he is. Here's the rap.
Trying to get some light. There we go.
You got good taste, man. This album is fucking great. I jumped on this like as soon as I seen Danny Carey talk about it. I don't remember if it was on Facebook or what, but I seen him talk about it and said this album's going to be out then. And that day I remember ordering it.
I think I had sampled it somewhere, but I'm like, holy shit. And I was like, I think I'd kind of casually said, I'd love to have this on vinyl, but I looked it up and there's like, there's no way you can get it on vinyl. And she kind of stored that away, and come Christmas time, there it was. And I was like, holy shit. Actually, I have another record in this stack that's the same way. That was a Christmas present from this past Christmas that I was like, no way would I ever be able to find this record. And she found it, but I'll save that for a minute or two.
Good woman. That's a keeper, man.
Yeah.
And that's instrumental. I don't know if you mentioned that's all instrumental.
Yeah. And, Danny Carey, what can you say? I saw Tool. I mean, that's actually where we got engaged. We got engaged at the Tool concert back in November. Wow. Because that's her favorite band. And, man, Danny Carey live, that was my first time seeing Tool. And I know everybody's like, yeah, no shit, he's an awesome drummer. It was mind-blowing how good live Danny Carey was.
When did you see him?
This past November.
Okay, yeah. wow, what a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
It's,
seen some just drum cam work from him where they're just showing you what he's doing on the drums while they're playing live.
yeah.
Talk about just falling. I just am entranced by his style. It's that cyclical type of nature that drummers use. Everything, a good drummer knows that everything is in a circle. All your movements should be in a circle. There should never be any angles. And he takes that and just, my God, he just puts it through the roof. He adds his own technique on top of it, but to see what he's doing and how effortless, they're so precise, his movements, it allows him to do so much work behind the kit.
I mean, I put him up there as a top 5 rock drummer of all time, and that's high cotton up there. But that, like, you know, and that's being, in my mind, that's being conservative, because for my money, he may be the best rock drummer I've ever heard. But you know, people will quick to come to say Bonham there, but you know, I'm not gonna start any shit. But I would.
Bonham was good at what he did. You know,
Yeah.
he wasn't super versatile. I mean, he was great at what he did, but you'd
Yeah.
never hear him doing any progressive work or anything
No.
experimental or odd. Or
And I think people that, not to start an argument with anybody, but I think people that always beat the, no pun intended, or maybe I'm totally intended it, to beat the Bonham drum as terms of the best rock drummer of all time. I think you're being blinded by nostalgia a little bit to thinking that, like, when I hear Danny Carey, and I'm like, that's a better drummer. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a better drummer. But I mean, not to take any away from Bonham, he played a different style, you know.
No, it's I'd start a debate out like that by saying it's something that shouldn't be debated, because you're talking about two different drummers. Bonham is the king in what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have nowadays are so much more well-rounded drummers than we've ever had really in the past. You know, and these drummers know everything. They can play any style, any tempo, they can read music, they can write music. They're just really schooled players nowadays, you know. Not to say that there weren't then, but nowadays, I don't think in my mind there's any type of music that Danny Carey could not play perfect.
Yeah. And he does it with
so well-rounded,
kind of a what would be a seemingly kind of cavalier attitude about it. It's kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of style, which I really appreciate. The fact that he's Tool, which Maynard is the complete opposite, where everything seems like he's takes everything way too serious in a way. A lot of people, the critique of Maynard would be he's a little pretentious.
a little bit.
I'm trying to be nice, because
say what you want to say here, man.
Yeah, but the fiance hears me talk shit about Maynard. That's going to be all she wrote. But
yeah,
but I think to that point, Danny Carey is 100% the opposite of that. You know, just kind of having fun, just doing his thing. And it's so weird seeing that juxtaposition of the band members of Tool on stage like that. I think it's pretty neat.
I picture an odd relationship in that band. I picture the players in the band as one element and Maynard as a later element. I'm pretty sure he writes all his lyrics after all the music's done.
Yeah.
Which detracts a little bit from his overall abilities for me. Not to say it's the easiest way to write lyrics is after the music's all done.
Sure.
To write lyrics while you're writing music takes a lot more input than it does to sit down to a finished piece and just, you may already have lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
All you're doing is figuring out the phrasing to go with the music.
Yeah.
So, and he is extremely dicky. I mean, I'm not going to buy his fucking wine.
Yeah.
You know, fuck him. I did see a dude come up on stage once. I saw a live something on YouTube, and just some like fanboy came up on stage and started. They got real close to him. And I don't know if you saw this. He gets him in his wrestling move.
Yeah,
he's got him in like a full Nelson or something, and he's still singing the whole time.
Yeah, Maynard is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, like myself. I was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. And we studied under the Gracie family, both of us. Maynard was a Hickson Gracie, and I was a Hoist Gracie disciple. So that's, you know, he hip tosses him, and then like he mounts him. So he's like he's mounting him, and he continues to sing. And he's like, and he's like patting his ass like while he's singing. But it was actually a pretty slick move. I'll give him credit. I mean, for all the rock guys that are so messed up in drugs and like, you know, are complete bad examples for what you want your kid to see, I will give him credit for, you know, he's pretty cut and dry when it comes to most of his lifestyle. I think he's athletic a little bit, weird athletic, not like he's out shooting hoops or anything, but you know, studying martial arts and you know, kind of blended the mind and the spirit with the music. That's very toolish, you know, and it's core, I think, you know.
And I think he feels like he needs to be aloof to a certain degree, you know.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate that kind of shit. I hate, like, I'm asking you a question, you just find a way to deflect it without even trying. I don't know how to do that. It's not in me. If somebody asks a question, I directly say yes or no.
Yeah.
But I can't be aloof. I don't fucking know how. And he's so good at it that it makes you not like him because he's so dicky, man.
Because I would have been pissed. I mean, it's part of his thing, but if I'd have paid all this money, and it was some fucking money, let me tell you, to see this show, and he stands at the back of the stage and stares at the curtain the whole time, I'm gonna be pissed off. But that's one of those, oh, you know, it's just Maynard being Maynard. It's like, no. At some point, it's cool to have a little bit of that mystique about you, but at some point, man, come on, people are, and he was not like that, to be fair. He had two boxes that were kind of at the back, but he's putting the players up front, which I do appreciate that. And he alternated on the right side of the stage, left side of the stage, standing on these boxes kind of at the back of the stage, but you could still see him where he was singing. It was enough for me. I got enough Maynard. It was like, oh shit, he's right there, man. I'm seeing him. Cool. You know, it's so, you know, it was cool, but it was a very, very good show.
Don't turn your back on the crowd.
No,
that's like a kick in the balls. I mean, these people are paying you rent, you know, and he knows that they'll pay the rent no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's why he does it, in my opinion, which makes me not, I don't even know what this dude is like. He's so good at being aloof. Who even know? He may just be like us when the cameras aren't. I doubt it. I highly fucking doubt it. But I mean, I hate art for the sake of art, where you're kicking somebody in the balls because you know you can.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the old Groucho Marx thing. He's like, I don't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member. I get that vibe from him, and I understand that, because, but at the same time, people are buying your stuff. There's at some point spending a lot of money to come see you, and it may be their only time ever getting to see you. So I think that it was a lot better this time, because I've heard people say, I saw Tool the last show or the last tour, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. He stood in the dark, literally in the dark behind the drums the entire show. Like, you never saw Maynard. It's like, okay, I'm not cool with that. No, you know, but
there's a line, but it's an odd thing, you know, artists, they push the line because they know they can.
Yeah.
Not always for the good. So So what you got? You got something else?
Let's see. I'll do I've been in this, I'll do a couple of these together to kind of push this forward. I've been in a really big punk mood lately. And I've showed it the last couple of weeks. I picked up my first Misfits record. This is what's self-titled, or known as Collection 1, which came out in like 88, I believe. But a lot of people, I know Vance said that's a good place to start with the Misfits. It's like pretty much got most of what you need to get started on there. I was never a really big fan. And then all of a sudden it's just one of those things. It just kind of clicked with me. And I mentioned it on the show to where a big Caius and Queens of the Stone Age fan, if you hear Josh Homme talk, you know, Sabbath and stuff like that was not his number one influence. It's the Misfits and Black Flag. And when I hear these riffs now, I'm like, dude, I totally hear that driving, you know, kind of repetitive thing. That's totally Misfits and Black Flag. But I've been really digging that. So even off show, I've been playing that a lot. The same with
that's Greeno's thing. He likes the Misfits a lot.
Yeah, it's you know, a lot of people, it seems like that's a band almost like Kiss, where you've been into them for a really long time, and that's like your thing, and you collect all kinds of shit about it. And that's one of those, I don't know, maybe it didn't hit me the right way. I thought it was kind of corny, like the makeup and all that stuff. I thought it was kind of corny, but for some reason I just had actually, I told this story, it's a little crass, but I'm streaming and I heard this song and I'm like, wait a minute, what did he say? And I went back and listened, and he's like, hey, I killed your baby today. And I'm like, You just sold yourself a record, pal. Like that's so ridiculous. I'm going to go buy it. But anyway, that's
And then Metallica did that on their Garage Days, didn't they?
that song was on there.
They did that song on their Garage Days EP, man.
Did not know that.
Yeah. That may have actually been the first time I heard it. I never really got past Danzig. I like Danzig. I do. I still do.
Have you heard the Elvis record?
The Elvis record? No.
He released one last week of him doing Elvis covers.
Oh, no. Well, we did always kind of call him the Morrison / Elvis baby.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can hear it's.
I don't know. Is it like Dee Snider's Christmas album? I don't.
It's.
Should I?
It's almost like he's taken off on Elvis. You can kind of hear him kind of doing his version of Elvis. But
what's he do? What kind of songs does he do?
I can't remember the songs, but I did stream a little bit of it because I was going to talk shit about it on the show. So I'm like, because I at least got to listen to a little bit of it. And
Right.
It's funny. God bless him. He's doing his thing.
Whatever that is, I don't have a fucking clue.
But that same time, the same week, I ordered this is from our local store, trying to support them during this this time where dude is out making house deliveries to your porch from the record store. So you can order online and he brings them to you. So this is a time where I'm not as into like used records as I'm like, because I don't think that's cataloged on his site. So I'm picking up like new records that normally I'm like, I'm going to get that brand new Dinosaur Jr. or whatever. Then I get in there and there's like 2 or 3 used jazz records, and I'm like, I got to get the used records because they're going to be gone, So I end up putting off buying new records. But I think this is a time to do that because the newer records are a little pricier. That's helping them out a little more, and I know I can just kind of lickety split. It's an easy thing to do. The other one I picked up, I'm so surprised he had this, was Wipers, Youth of America. This is a Pacific Northwest punk band from the early 80s, and I say punk. It's almost new wavy. I don't want to say new wavy. No wave. I don't know, but it's not. It's not. Super fast punk songs or anything. But these guys were he wanted to do. I think his name's Greg Sage. The whole idea behind this was I wanted to do a recording project and wanted to almost like Daft Punk or something or the Gorillaz. Didn't want to tour or show his face or do interviews or anything like that, which didn't exactly work out. But how I come to know this band was I have this Melvins CD called Electro Retard. I'm a huge Melvins fan. And this is the first Melvins I ever picked up, Electro Retard. It's like an EP. And one of the tracks on there is called Youth of America. And I was like, that's my favorite Melvin song. And then somebody was like, hey, dumbass, you realize that's a Wipers cover, right? And I'm like, Wipers? And so the song is actually on here. And it's to be anti-punk. The song's like 10 minutes long. But the riff, oh man, it is so good. It's worth it for that song alone. And I couldn't believe I'd looked into like ordering this before because I'd been streaming this and I really dug it. And when I was scrolling through Underdog Records, my local shop, to help support them, I got to the W's in their punk because I'd really been to the punk lately, and I got to the W's and I'm like, oh my God, they have the Wipers. And I'm like, bet. Well, that's an easy. I've been wanting this anyway, and this is not something that's just your local shop's going to have all the time because it's. A lot of people just don't know about it.
I've never heard of them. Where are they from and what year is that? Do you know?
This is 81. This is a repress from a few years ago, but it's they're from I want to say Washington State, if not Portland or not Oregon. I know it's Pacific Northwest, specifically up that way. But a lot of people say this was a huge influence for the Melvins and a huge influence for Nirvana, Mudhoney, bands like that I really dig and have dug for a long time. And it's nice to go back a generation before and see what they were listening to. Just the same way that you talked about maybe showing some multiple formats. And I don't have a lot, but I do. But one thing that really jumped in my mind, and I can't find it and it's driving me crazy, is I at a yard sale, bought a flipper cassette. Blowing Chunks on a yellow cassette, which is actually worth a chunk of change now. And I bought that solely because Kurt Cobain wore a flipper shirt back in the day, and I was eat up with Kurt Cobain. Anything Nirvana, I was all over. And but that was one I would love to have shown, and I don't know what the hell it is because we did go through not to throw this off into an aside. You see what happens when we do record night and I go off on these things here?
Hey, it's all right.
But in terms of other formats, we started this thing. It was so fun, man. I brought over, because underneath the tables and the mixer over here, it's like a full, like, you know, EQ. There's a tape deck. There's a 200 disc CD player. But I brought over a grocery bag full of cassettes back in the day. A lot of them were dubbed and recorded off other people's CDs and stuff. And it was fun. And me and my old roommate, the cameraman as he was known, we did what we called Cassaturday. So we did record night on Friday night, and then we did Cassaturday the next night, where we just kind of go through this bag and be like, "Oh, dude, check this out." And it would be some random shit that was recorded, some live local shows that we went to that I had, some bands that I was in, all the way from, Green Day's Dookie and Meat Puppets Too High to Die on the other side. I mean, shit like that. But it was fun to kind of pop through and see what else was in there.
Yeah.
And what we've been doing even more recently is, like I said, down below, we have a 200 disc CD player. And I bought this before everything really went digital. And I bought it on eBay like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And so rather than have to get up and switch to the record on Saturdays or whatever, I just hit shuffle on this thing. And it's been really, really interesting, because my musical taste, it's 200 CDs, but it's the CDs I put in there in probably the early 2000s. So there's a lot of probably more electronica in there than I would have nowadays. Some cool stuff, but stuff that, and a lot of, new metal stuff, because I was in a new metal band. But and a lot more jammier, like Radiohead, Perry Farrell solo records, stuff like that, and a lot of stuff that popped up, and I'm like, no fucking idea who this is. I looked at fiance and I'm like, who is this? And she's like, I don't like playing this game. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because sometimes I'd be like, do you know who this is? And she's like, don't do this, but I was like, no, I'm asking because I have no idea. She's like, these are your CDs, asshole. And I'm like, yeah, there's these 200 and from almost 20 years ago now, they've set in this 200 discer. And originally before things went digital, the way I was a big mini disc guy. I love mini discs. And I had a mini disc recorder, a little small, like Walkman size. And I would hook it up to the player, my 200 disc player, hit shuffle, hit record, turn the sound all the way down, go to sleep. Wake up the next day, I had a hour-long mix on my mini disc I could take with me to work and listen to. It was like my own radio station. It's all my shit, but I had no idea what was going to be on there. So that was before you could just put on Spotify and hit shuffle or whatever. But that's kind of where that's my other format portion of this. That's we have started doing that, and it's been really fun, of stuff that's popped up and like, man, I forgot I even had this, or who the hell is this?
Right?
I had to come in here and open it up and see who it is. I'm like, oh my God.
It's odd how you change. And for the most part, I forgot a lot of what I own. I was just going through vinyl today in the Kiss section. I didn't know I had one of the Kiss, solo Peter Criss. I was like, I don't fucking remember where it came from. I don't remember where I got it. It's really clean. That happens. It's odd when it happens. Like, I don't have any recollection of where this would have come from.
What I've said, I've been mentioning this on the show a lot. I think this is a good time, because I know a lot of people are probably jonesing to go out and get their knuckles scraping on some records in the shop and in the Goodwills and shit. And most of us can't really do that right now. So it's a time, especially for collectors who have all this, to like, let's stop down, take a minute to kind of go back through your own collection, and you'll find stuff you're like, wait a minute, I've not even listened to this. Put it on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. You're almost like, you sure this is you? And I'm like, well, it's here.
Yeah.
It's placed here on purpose. It's with the other Kiss shit. I
was telling Steve, that happens a lot when we buy, or especially when we do, like on the show, there was times where, I've got 10 records, he's got 10 records, we show it all. And then we play one or two of them and I shelve them all. And then 6 months goes by and I'll be like, oh yeah, remember this?
Yeah, good point. It's almost like, what I've been doing for a while now is when I buy shit, I'll keep it in like the new section.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always keep it in like iShop until I've listened to it enough where I go, okay, it seems like if I buy something new and I only listen to it once or twice and then file it away. It seems most likely when that would happen, where you go, what, where did I get this from?
I try to play at least both sides. Even if I play, typically with a new, like a dig of the week, I'll play one side on the show, and then I'll probably play the other side off the air. And if it's super good, I'll come back and play it next week on the show. But I at least want to hear both sides on or off the air, and then before I shelve it, because I will forget about it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me show you something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you one more new, and we'll figure out how much more time we're going to spend doing this. I'm sure you know this, man.
Oh,
who here doesn't know this?
I almost pulled it.
I'm going to give you a cyber slap if you don't know this. Anyway.
What color variant do you have?
Is it upside down?
Yeah, there you go.
This is Sleep Dope Smoker. And this is the Weedian variant.
Okay, yeah.
Weedian, so Weedian green.
Is that the same one I have?
They got the Hashishian one, which is the brown. I think that's brown and green.
Mine is the Indica variant.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, this is double LP.
This looks almost just like yours, dude.
Let me see.
But it's got the like kind of marbly in there.
Yeah, you got more marble. Is that green?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now when did you get that?
I got it used, so I'm not exactly sure when this press was. They call it the Indica.
Okay.
It's limited to 2,600.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah, limited
to 85,000.
Yeah, I told that about the Joy Division. It's like, oh, it's the limited red vinyl. It's like, yeah, it's limited to 30,000.
Anyway, if you don't know these guys, if you guys are watching and you don't know, this is Matt Pike and Al. You know, Al's been in Shrine Builder. He's been in all kinds of stuff. Desert Stoner, the Consummate Stoner album of all time. One track over what?
55 minutes.
Is it 55 or a little more maybe?
Yeah, right around there.
One single track. This is the single track variant, not the chopped up one that they did before. Their contractual obligation made their label, I think, forced them into chopping it up into tracks because one track didn't seem like it would make money for them.
And that was originally called Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. That original press is going for insane money.
And you know what label that was?
Southern Lord?
London Records.
London. Wow.
As in like ZZ Top.
10 years after, right?
So like that, yeah, no shit. London Records had problem with you doing an hour-long song.
Yeah. I wonder if that's where they recorded it. Did they record it in the States? How they got a hold of them? Anyway.
Yeah.
Not a good deal for them.
I think, I actually pulled this to show as well. The first Sleep. No, that's not the first one, but 92, the Holy Mountain. I mean, that's the reason I was going to pull that is because that's in constant rotation here. Well, I don't go a couple of weeks without playing that record. I mean, that's just kick ass.
It's a good album.
Yeah.
What you got?
Well, I'll show this. The one other punk thing I did. I showed this on the show a couple of weeks ago, but it's pick this up. It's called 77KK. It's a punk compilation from France from 1985. This is an original press. Side A is all American bands. Side B is all French bands, I believe. And kind of the rub with this is it's pretty rare. It's a pretty rare record. Some of the French bands, kind of surprising, at least to me, kind of blur that lines and are a little bit nationalist in their beliefs and kind of their music and lyrics and stuff, a little more than I'm personally a little comfortable with. But the American bands, you got White Crosses on here, DOA's on here, Youth Brigade, a lot of like lesser known, great hardcore. This is hardcore mostly. And the French stuff is okay. It's a little, skyier in a way. It wasn't as good as the American stuff, but that's a pretty kick-ass like compilation. I was like, I'm not going to leave that in the store because I was just kind of lamenting about how I didn't have enough like old school punk stuff, and I've kind of gotten into that vibe a little bit recently. So definitely something I wanted to pick up.
Yeah, any standout? That's compilation, right?
Yeah, it's a compilation. The DOA is what really stands out to me. They're a Virginia band. I can't remember the track that's on here, but and this is I'm kind of not as versed in this stuff as I would like to be, and that's what I've been watching on Tubi. I've been watching a lot of punk documentaries and stuff. That's an era of music that I really, even if it's not a music that I listen to all the time, it's a music that I'm really interested in the culture and the history of. I'm always in, and if somebody does a different hardcore punk documentary, I'm going to watch that one too. It's like desert rock, stoner stuff. I'll watch the same. I know it's the same fucking interviews you just did with, Brant Bjork, but I'll watch the same shit again. I watched one this morning for the like Desert Age. It's like the fourth time I've seen it. It's free on Tubi, but I just love that vibe and stuff. And that's punk. The early or hardcore punk is one of those things I'm kind of like that about myself. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I've never been ape shit about collecting the music, or that's my go-to. Hit it, throw it on my phone and jam it out all the time. But I love the history and the culture behind it, like Black Flag and Minor Threat and that kind of vibe. I really dig that shit.
Wasn't there a punk episode on that? The
Decline
of Western civilization.
One
of them was nothing but punk, and it's just they're spitting on each other the whole fucking time.
The very first one is punk. It's it's got Black Flag before Henry Rollins. It's got the Germs. I didn't realize how batshit crazy that guy from the Germs was. It's got X in it, which that's a great band. I'm trying to think who else is in there, but that's stuff I love kind of going back and seeing that kind of stuff. And I don't know what it is. It's something about that genre that tickles.
If nobody's heard of that, I think it's a 3-part series, the Decline of Western Civilization.
And all 3 are free on Tubi right now.
Are they? Yeah, check it out, man.
The second one is about metal, or kind of hair metal kind of stuff. The third one is I've never seen. It says it follows basically like homeless punk rockers, so like gutter punks. I don't know if it's not music. I don't know if I'll dig that as much. But
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can either show another record, or I can show a movie. I'll let you choose.
That's up to you, man. Whatever you're vibing on.
Okay. I'm gonna show you a record. I don't want to keep you too late.
That's all right.
But I am gonna show you something that you're gonna like. I spun this recently, and I spun it because I wanted it to be fresh so we could talk about
it. Yeah.
I know you like country, and I figured you must love Waylon. This is the whole outlaw country era that I just love so much. Waylon live. It's so fucking good, man.
Yeah. Waylon is the king, man. That's I may put Jerry Reed 1, but Waylon would be number 2.
Yeah, T for Texas, the opening track, so good. Talking about whipping up the audience into a frenzy, man. There's not a ton that I can really expand on as far as what it is. It's outlaw country. It's Waylon at his best, in my opinion. I love all the outlaw era stuff. It's the stuff I like the most.
I didn't know. What the hell was I going to say? Shit, I can't remember.
That's okay. I'm going to show one more, and then I'm going to let you show 2.
Okay.
All right. This is also one that most people may know. It's the one that everyone knows. This is Bo Hansen. This is music inspired by Lord of the Rings, the book. I don't know if you know this, Mike. I feel like you have to know this.
I've seen it. I don't know what it sounds like, to be honest with you. I've seen people show this.
Well, it's obviously inspired by the book, Lord of the Rings, or what was it called, The Hobbit, maybe, or something. But it's essentially it's an audio version of that book. It's another soundscape type of LP, done in separate parts. I believe it's in correspondence to the book. So
Very cool.
It's kind of a musical extension of the book. It's really heady. It's I think it's early 70s. That's it's kind of what you would imagine if even Lord of the Rings the movie. You could even argue that it has a feel for the new Lord of the Rings kind of stuff, as far as there are pieces that correspond to the book, but it's his musical interpretation of the text.
Is that rarer to find? Is it hard to find?
No, it's accessible. He's got a few. There's another one he's got called Attic Thoughts, which is actually my favorite. There's another one called Magician's Hat. He does one from music inspired by Watership Down. So there's another one there. He put a lot of it together himself, kind of a solitary musician. So incredible soundscapes. I highly recommend it if you
check that
do
out.
anything wizard smoke, or you just like kicking back or something, watching fire. It's great fire. I would call this almost perfect like camp music, because it's an environmental kind of a journey.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool, man.
You know, anyone that hasn't checked it out, man, smoke a fat one and check it out.
Oh man.
Off to you, brother.
I'll show something that I was trying to think of something I've been playing recently that's not something that everybody would maybe know, and I don't know if anybody knows what the hell this is, because I bought this on a whim. This goes back to I think we're talking last week on Greeno and George's podcast, like when you first start collecting records, and it's easy for us to like, oh, that's a dope cover. You got to buy, look, it's got the crazy psychedelic, whatever. You buy the cover, and then you realize Johnny Rivers, that doesn't always, it's not always exactly what it seems. So you learn to like, okay, let's look at song titles. Let's look at the instruments that's on here. And if it's like some guys look kind of like, wigged out, and there's a sitar in here, this could be some trippy shit. So you start making these deductions. Well, I ran across this record, and it's I guess a 10-inch Mad 3, and this name of it was Napalm in the Morning, Estrus Recordings. Nothing about this was familiar. I guess because it was smaller, it kind of stuck out as I'm flipping through. And so I flip it over. It's got this on the back, and I'm like, this is pretty cool looking.
Okay. I get the Napalm reference. Okay. Yeah.
But what really sold me on this is when I go to, like, number one, at the bottom, all the names, this is Japanese. This is a Japanese record.
Interesting.
But the instruments, like, okay, this one dude, Kaio, plays Smash the Drum Kit. Haruto plays Thunder Bass. And this is what did it for me. Eddie Legendary Heroes is his name. I'm sure there's something lost in translation here. Right. Only fuzz guitar. And I'm like, you just sold yourself a record, partner. And so it's what this is like, it's garage rock. I think it came out in 97.
Wow, that late, huh?
Yeah, it's Japanese garage rock. And I mean, like, these guys obviously worship the Sonics and the Animals and the Kingsmen and stuff like that. It's got that vibe to it. There's some harmonica on here. I think the singer, which is kind of funny to me. I've seen, because it's hard to find information about this actually, but he wears like the old Marlon Brando motorcycle hat thing, and that, maybe somebody from the Village people may have worn in the back in the day. It's very odd, like a leather thing with the hat. And so they're into this, they're really into the American garage vibe, and they do it really well. This album kicks ass, man. And it's not, I've never seen this again other than when I bought this, and it's not something that's going to, pop up. So I think you can maybe find a track or two on YouTube. So it's worth checking out if you're into garage at all. It's pretty killer. And I love having a weirdo record like that not everybody has, because, since how many times can we talk about a Zeppelin or a Fleetwood Mac record and have something else interesting or to say about it or add to the conversation? So it's nice to be able to move that along.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I found Flower Traveling Band.
Mm.
And the first time I found them, I heard them do a Black Sabbath cover. They have an album before Satori. I don't know if you know Flower Traveling Band. They're another Japanese band that just loves, these are set early 70s Japanese band. And they love Black Sabbath. And they love psychedelic and they love hard rock. So their whole first album, I forget the name of the first album. They're all riding a bunch of motorcycles, like trying to be American bikers, but they're riding Yamahas and Suzukis and shit down the road, trying to look tough.
There's a pejorative term for those automobiles. We won't reference that,
but yeah, but it's the greatest thing because he has a heavy Japanese accent, and he's singing Ozzy lyrics, and it's just, the band's good, but it makes me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of the way this is, but at the same time, it also it brings in some feelings of like, man, they care enough about what we're doing over here to imitate it, and that's cool too. And it's like an homage in their own way. So I can't laugh at it too much, although some of the stuff is funny, and some of it's kind of lost in translation, I think. But
yeah, for in relation to Flower Traveling Band, when they put out that second album. I think it was a second album called Satori. And it's kind of, it's like another one of those part one, part two. I don't think it's conceptual, but they kind of fell into their own when it's real deep purpley and Sabbathy. And there's a lot of like, I don't want to say yelling, but the singer, Joe Yamanaka, has a certain voice. And he's super emotional when he sings and stuff. Especially when he does this kind of Japanese, like throaty type of squeals and stuff. It's really interesting stuff. But it's like a complete departure from that prior album when they were doing basically all covers.
Yeah.
They kind of went into their own thing. Of course you could argue, so it's Deep Purple or it's Black Sabbath. But again, that's probably the highest compliment you could give. Like,
sure, absolutely.
To be wanting to be exactly like another band and kind of following their footsteps. So yeah, it's actually a good album, Satori.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple kind of my stoner rock update. I can kind of lump these in and bang them off real quick, because I know you're kind of a stoner rock guy. One of the first things I remember speaking with you about is I think you posted a Brant Bjork record. And I was like, whoa, somebody else is like Brant Bjork. And they had some new reissues come out, I believe. And
Jalamanta just came out reissued.
Yeah. I need to pick all those up, because you're talking about, I think you were mentioning something that's good campfire music. Brant Bjork to me is barbecuing with your bros, and it's like getting ready to be sunset. It's just that right vibe. Nice and warm outside, cold beer, steaks on the grill. It just has that vibe, man. But my kind of update for my stoner rock stuff, if there's something that I go after on a new records and I order from online nowadays, that's been if there was a genre that I concentrate on, I would say it's stoner rock stuff from the past 5 years. It's probably been my number one genre to collect for, that I've learned probably more about and kind of been a little obsessed over, especially the desert scene. But there was a sale from Rod and Easy Records I took advantage of shipping basically for this one, because this one wasn't on sale, but I lumped it in so I could get some free shipping. Acid King's Busey Woods.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. This is as seminal. It's as seminal as Caius. Really. It really is. And Lori, the singer and guitar player, she is such a badass chick, man. I'm not big on like chick singers. I know that's chauvinistic. It's just not, a lot of times it doesn't vibe with me very well. She is so kick ass. Like, she's a gnarly guitar player, a great singer, and this band just absolutely kicks ass. This originally came out, this is the 2019 reissue, and I got it on, I think it's orange vinyl.
Do you know when that originally came out?
90. Oh man, let's see if it says it on the record here. Oh, I went for this color variant. There was an option you could kind of choose.
Is that g.m.r.n?
It's yellow, but it's with some like little splotchy stuff on it. I'm not seeing the date on this, but I should have been more prepared. Let's see. It's originally, I think it's on Man's Ruin who did all the Kaya stuff.
Yeah. So if you own Sky Valley, you need to own this.
99, I think.
Okay.
So it's right around that time, and I'd been streaming this for a long time, and it's one of those records that was not really readily available to just waltz in and pick up a copy at your local record store. The reissues came out, and I'd like to think I have learned my lesson about, hey, that reissue of that band and that album you really like that you stream all the freaking time just came out, and oh, I'll go pick it up sometime. I'll be sure to pick it up, and then it's gone, and they're not going to press anymore, and you're left holding the bag. This is one of those times we were ordering other records, and I said it was like $20. Dude, fuck out of here. Order the record, get it in your collection, and then be done with it. But also around that same time, there's another one I got from that sale that I'll finish off with in the Stoner Rock update. But another label I'm big into is STB Records. I'm not real sure where they're out of, but I think this came from. I ordered this from not Heavy Psych, All Things Heavy. It's a great website with a lot of stoner doom stuff on it. It's a band I've been listening to for a while called Goya. And Goya, these cats are out of Arizona. And I'd been somebody gave me in one of the stoner groups I'm in, posted like the digital download code in the Facebook group. It's like, hey, I already got this digitally. Who wants it? And just posted it. And I was like, oh, free shit. So I just went and downloaded it and put it on my phone or whatever. I'm like, wow, it's kick ass. Thick ass fuzz tones. Sort of screamy hollering, but not over the top, but just tuned down fuzz nonsense. And it's really good. And this is an EP that came out, I want to say like last year, a couple of years ago.
How many songs on that?
I think just they do like I think there's another version of one of them. So it's The Enemy. The Enemy is the name of the album.
Where are these guys at? Did you mention where they're from?
They're out of Arizona.
Arizona. Okay.
So there's The Enemy, Last, Light Years, and side B has an extended take of The Enemy, a track called quote unquote the fuck song, and then Who Are You from Black Sabbath. They do a Sabbath cover.
Really?
And like I said, it's STB Records, who I've dealt with in the stoner community for quite a while. This is a nice orange vinyl.
Nice.
Kick ass record, man. I got this. They literally had, I bought this and a Yawning Man record. I played that last night. I should have pulled that out. But I'm a big, speaking of the desert scene, Yawning Man, love Yawning Man.
Mm-hmm.
But both of those were brand new. They had a 50% off everything in the store sale. So I got this record for $8. I got the Yawning Man record for $12. So $20 for both records. No, wait, 8.
I like the printing on the front. It's kind of like the Monsters, kind of more matte or a different gloss than the cover.
Yeah, very cool stuff. And it's
really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder what that means, Goya.
Look
vegetables or something.
I know there's a like a Mexican
right.
food company that's something, but this is my big takeaway is in the stoner setup was in that Rod and Easy sale. A lot of the LPs were $10, and so I got a couple. Jay got a couple. Steve got a couple, and the Acid King was not $10, but it was 20. So I just lumped it in for shipping. But the other one I got, somebody I'd been streaming for a long time, a Canadian group called Shooting Guns. Now these guys have done some soundtrack work, a movie called Wolf Cop, which is kind of a weird synthy wave, also on orange vinyl, ironically enough. Boom.
Wow, cool.
But what's really cool about this band is also instrumental, but imagine the thick fuzziness of some Sabbath-esque type riffs with the motoric beat of krautrock. This is like that krautrock. It just kind of drives that beat with fuzzy, kind of tripped out driving riffs over top of it. And I'm like, that's a fantastic idea. Why didn't I think of that? Combining Sabbath and like krautrock. I mean, holy shit. How could that go wrong?
No.
But that's my like kind of sleeper. You've probably not heard of them in addition to that Mad record.
Yeah. What's
Like,
the name of that again, Mike?
Shooting Guns. This was not, you know, this is the only one that was offered for $10. There's another one that looks like, and they're Canadian. They're from Saskatchewan, I believe. There's another.
That's okay.
we'll give them a pass.
You got to pass.
There's another one that shows like an 18-wheeler that's kind of blurry, kind of green. This one's called Flavor Country, the one that I just showed. The other one I can't remember. That's the one I'd streamed more, but all of their stuff is really good, and it's kind of just that little different take on that stoner vibe, and that's man, that the motoric beat on top of that is, there's really something to that. That's a fantastic evolution of that genre, I would say.
Awesome. Thanks for the turn on, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
what it's all about, you know. We just wants to show the same shit that everybody knows, right?
That's right. You know, and I try, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, yeah, what can I show that's like, you know, I'm trying to, I know you like a little stoner rock stuff, so I don't want to, you know, and that's a lot when I'm not listening to, you know, lyricless stuff, I'm probably spinning that kind of stuff most of the time.
Yeah, Brant. I love Brant. What can you say about him, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll show this record, and then I'm going to show you one movie, and then, you know, we'll see what we're doing after that. So,
okay.
You know, in these uncertain times, you know, things are rough for us emotionally, right? We need a pick-me-up. Who doesn't need a pick-me-up now and then, right? A little kind of brush up off the ground and get yourself going again. Here's 10 years after. This is called Positive Vibrations. And the album is just like it sounds. It's full of awesome, positive, happy tunes. Not too introspective, not too sullen, not sad. Songs about, well, obviously, give yourself some positive vibrations is one of the lyrics in one of the songs. It's also a song called Stone Me. Obviously, he's talking about getting baked and shit. So, and this is a, I don't think this is a white label, but this is a DJ copy. There's the tracks on there. Standout track for me off of here is, actually, I like a lot of them. Stone Me is cool. I'd say the title track probably, Mike, is the one I like the most, Positive Vibrations.
Wow.
It's, you know, some of his stuff requires some listening. You know, of course, he does jazz, he does blues really well, he does blues rock very well. And some of his stuff you really, really want to sit down and absorb. This is more like, this will just kind of put you in a mood more than anything. Yeah, it's not super deep. It's not super complicated. He goes straight back to his roots with some old heavy driving blues stuff and straight ahead rock stuff. And that's really what I like about this album the most. In my opinion, it's like a complete departure from the technical acumen point of view of most of his albums before and even some after.
I have a shit ton of 10 years after, and I've never really seen that one. I don't know that record at all.
Yeah, it's I recommend it, man. Like I said, it's it'll just make you happy. Some of the lyrics will make you laugh, you know, he's singing about getting high and stuff, but there's songs about positivity, and there's also those hard driving rock songs. Going to Birmingham, I think, is one of the songs on here. Of course, I need my old man glasses, and I don't have them. Going back to Birmingham. That's like a straight ahead, heavy tempo song that just kind of picks you up like a cup of coffee, you know. But it's a good album to put you in a good mood. Is the best way I can describe that album.
Metal Theologian wants us to show some Beatles records.
He can go fuck himself.
He did say he was kidding, but
you can fuck yourself anyway. Even bringing that up. He knows me. That's why he's saying it, because he knows me. Probably.
That's funny.
So how about I show you one movie? I don't know if you got anything left. If not,
I got one more record, man.
Okay, I'll show a DVD, and then you can
Okay.
show a record, and then we'll say goodnight. This is my favorite. I'm into submarine movies. I love war movies. I love submarine movies, but I love authentic movies. I don't like tons of dialogue in one room and or a cheesy set. I like immersive type of stuff. So I don't know if you know this one.
Mm.
Matthew McConaughey's in this. This is U-571. This is inspired by actual things that happened during the Second World War related to code breaking and deciphering machines. And it's heavy in realism, man. The sets are absolutely mind-blowing. Technically, everything is where it's supposed to be. I really know what else to say besides that. It's an incredible movie. If you're in the submarine stuff and this is World War II time.
What year is this?
This is like dude.
I mean, or at least era.
This is later. I'd say this is like early 2000s or something. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine.
It's so fucking small I can't see it. I think the early 2000s or something, maybe. Can you look it up?
Yeah.
Anyway, check out the date. It's not that old. Not to me anyway. It could even be 90s, but
2000.
2000. Okay, I wasn't far off in the early 2000s. It's very, very well made. And one of the best things I could say about this movie is John Bon Jovi gets his head blown off. What more could you ask? I mean, if every movie could have John Bon Jovi getting decapitated, I'd buy it.
That's how all porno should end.
So that's it, man.
Okay. Well, I've got one record to show, and I mentioned it earlier there. I've kind of alluded to this a couple of times, and some of the record night people watching are probably like, "Will you stop fucking talking about this record?" Well, this was the recent present from the fiance for Christmas that I looked into, and I was like, "There's no way I would be able to find this record to get it." You know, it wasn't easy to find. Secondly, it's a genre that I mentioned that when I'm away from my record collection, it's what I'm listening to more than anything nowadays because it's, no lyrics to speak of. And it's the genre is synthwave or vaporwave. This is more synthwave than vaporwave. Vaporwave's more like a cheesier sounding, but in a good way. But anyway, this is the artist, Volker X. And there's a track on this record called Beacon, featuring Demi K as a guitar player. And it is the best song I have heard in like 10 years. It's the first time I heard this. I heard it on another streamer playing video games and plays a lot of synthwave, Dr. Disrespect. Big fan of Dr. D. His and behind him, I could hear this track, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It's like it kind of builds up, and then it has a little audio sample in the middle, and then it kicks back in. And the second half of the song, I was like thrashing in my house, just like it was so awesome, and no idea who it was. And I'm asking in the chat, "Hey, who's this song? Who's the song?" Nothing. It was like 30,000 people in there, so I couldn't figure it out. So I thought it was another guy named Mitch Murder, who I'm a big fan of. So I'm streaming his stuff. It never pops up. So I do like synthwave playlists, like just hit shuffle. Never pops up. One night, Saturday, I was sitting here gaming on this PC, had Spotify in the earphones while I was gaming, and doing one of those playlists, and the song plays, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's it! That's the song." It was literally 6 months I'd been looking for this track, so I just alt tab out of the game, got killed immediately, and went over and saw who it was, and it's Volker X, and I looked it up, I wrote it down, I saved it to my YouTube like history so I could go back and that night I was having a couple of cervezas, but after I got off, I went into the living room, pulled up YouTube. I listened to this song 9 times in one night. I am not kidding, and danced by myself like an absolute papaga in the other room. I was going to use the R word, but I won't use the R word. I was dancing by myself in the other room, just losing my mind. And I've told the guy how much of a fan I am, and he now follows me on Twitter.
Ah,
But
you didn't tell him you tucked your penis between your legs while you danced, did you?
well,
You Buffalo Bill him?
I'll leave a little bit to the imagination.
You know?
If I could only get it to fit all the anyway. But the cool thing about this is it's not only synthwave, so it has that 80s montage vibe to it, but these are actual real guitar tracks over top of this. So that's not synthesized. These are real kind of shreddery guitar riffs. And so the melody is organic and it's there. It's like Bjork said, if you think there's no heart and soul in electronic music, it's because nobody put it there. And that is exactly what I say about something like this, because I know a lot of rock guys would poo-poo shit like this really quickly, but that's exactly right. If you're listening to music and you think it has no heart and soul, it's because the motherfuckers making it didn't put it there. Because this absolutely blew my mind, just the way Slayer did or Metallica did when I heard it in middle school. I had the same type of native reaction to this, and it's even better. The girlfriend or fiance, excuse me, found this at just like the Volto record. She knew how this was after I'd lost my mind, and I was like, you got to hear this song. She was actually in the hospital. I kid you not. This is a true story. She was in the hospital, and the doctor came in, and the doctor leaves, and I was like, hey, can I play you a song on my phone? And she was like, yeah, play the song. And I was playing it. I'm like, that second half of that song's dope, right? Did you hear that second? And I swear to God that happened. But she was kind of loud. She dug it. But yeah, I can't believe she found that. And I've been playing this a lot, and I've played it on the show. Some people are probably tired of it, but I keep pulling it out. I just keep pulling it out. And I stream it. I listen to it digitally. I listen to it on vinyl. I can't get enough of it. So that's my ender right there.
There you go. Good ender, man. Well, I wrote that down, and I'm gonna check these out. Goya and Volker X, and I really want to see exactly what these guys are. I can't wait to check them out, and maybe we'll have you on in the future, and we can kind of spin and sample some of the stuff we recommended, and we'll talk about that in the future.
Yeah,
probably.
Circle back.
Yeah, Mike, I'd like to thank you for coming on, man. It's been fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. I really enjoyed it, man. I appreciate you having me on. I'm always open to flapping my gums, baby.
Yeah, it's a good thing, man. Just sit back and relax. Show some of the shit you love. No pretenses. Just relax.
Hell yeah.
One of those couches where you sit in and it's uncomfortably, you're back too far.
Yeah.
That's where we are. That's where we
that's exactly right.
We'll see you next Sunday. I've got another guest coming up this Sunday, so about the same time. So I hope you guys will join me again. I'm hoping to make this kind of a weekly thing on a day, when most of the other podcast guys aren't doing it. So we're not flooding everybody with too much content. But, join me in the future if you can. And if this is after the fact, we'll go back and there's one more, and there'll be one more ahead. So I hope you enjoy it. And once again, Mikey Bananas, Grown Man Record Night. Check his shit out every Friday around 11 midnight-ish.
Yeah, we try for 11:30, but it's midnight. It's probably the safe play.
Yeah, a little open-ended. Again, don't put us under any constraints. We don't like that kind of stuff.
That's right.
So on behalf of Miss Bizzarro and Mikey Bananas, we'll talk to you guys next week. Take care.